Hello, and welcome to another episode of Shaping the Future. I'm Dr. Jeff Gold, and I have the honor of serving as the president here at the University of Nebraska. This series that we call Shaping the Future spotlights the remarkable people who are helping move our state forward. People whose work is shaping Nebraska's future in meaningful ways. And today, I'm honored to be joined by Mr. Todd Bingham. Todd is the president and the Chief Executive Officer of the Nebraska Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He's the voice of businesses and industry across our entire state. Todd came to Nebraska in mid-2025 after a long and distinguished career in industry and public policy, bringing many years of experience as a registered lobbyist, advocate, and an executive leader. Prior to this role, Todd served as the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Utah Manufacturers Association, where he led one of the state's oldest and most influential industry organizations. In Utah, he helped manufacturers navigate regulatory challenges, provided strategic growth support, and helped to harness innovation. In his first months here in Nebraska, he's already emphasized his commitment to building connections across both urban and rural communities, and bringing a, quote, rising tide lifts all boats, unquote, mindset to the state's economic development efforts. Under Todd's leadership, the Nebraska Chamber is connecting employers and policymakers, connecting and educators and so many others to grow our economy and strengthen our workforce. He and his team are helping shape a vision for long-term prosperity in communities large and small. So Todd, welcome. It's great to have you with us today on Shaping the Future. Sounds like quite an amazing legacy, but our audience is always interested, before we start talking economic development, which is one of my favorite topics, as you probably know, when you were growing up and going to school, how did you ever end up in this kind of role? I mean, it's probably not something that most high school students get out of bed one morning and say, I want to get involved in economic development. They may think they want to make money. I mean, I understand that, but there's a big difference.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I'm kind of a second generation association management. My dad was in the industry for many, many years,
Really?
heavily involved in the Utah Farm Bureau Federation for 3 decades.
Wow.
And so I spent time in and around that type of an organization. Spent time up at the Capitol on my days off from school, and just kind of ended up in that type of an industry. Didn't think I would, but I did.
Well, we're certainly glad you did, and I'm certainly glad that you've planted yourself here in Nebraska, because this is a great opportunity to be forward-looking. So why don't we start off with basic principles of economic development and what the Chamber looks at as their core mission.
Yeah. Clearly as a statewide organization, we see the role of the state chamber as driving economic development across the state, whether that be in small communities, large communities, whether it be out in the Panhandle or whether it be right here in Lincoln. And I think that's important. Over years now, economic development has probably changed a little bit. It's come to mean more than just jobs. And I think that's important as we look at things like growing communities, strengthening businesses to provide not only jobs but economic drivers, capital investment. All of those things are important from a statewide perspective, and that's beyond the bigger metropolitan areas like Omaha and Lincoln.
Having sat on the board of several chambers during my career, as you may know, I sat on the executive committee of the Greater Omaha Chamber for many years and currently serve on your board here. One thing I've learned is that a lot of it is about partnerships, and maybe you can touch on that, because the go-it-alone strategy in this day and age is just not going to work.
Yeah, I think one of the most important roles of a state chamber is to do 3 things. One is to identify opportunities and challenges that face the state, the business community, academia, healthcare, government, convene partners together and get those partnerships created, and then develop solutions to those opportunities and challenges. And that's one of the things we try and do at the state chamber, is be that that voice that brings parties together to say, how do we solve challenges, and how do we think outside the box to drive things like economic development in the state.
And so, speaking of partnerships, let's talk about the university, particularly because there is no question that every time I get a chance to stand behind a microphone and somebody asks about what's the mission of the university, I always talking about education and training of the future workforce. I always talk about research, science, discovery, and creative activity. I always talk about community service, whether that's in the ag sector or in healthcare or in so many others. But the fourth pillar I always talk about is economic development. And of course, what many Nebraskans don't appreciate is that for every dollar invested us by the legislature, there's $10 that's put into the economy of the state. I mean, if I could get a 10-to-1 investment tomorrow, I'd probably end this interview really quick and go head out and call somebody and see what I could do. So how do you view the partnership with the university? And frankly, how could we be more effective in what we do?
Well, I think the partnership, number one, thank you for your willingness to serve on our board and be there to talk about the importance of education, academia, that relationship. We mentioned a few things that economic development really drives and how it's important. Workforce is a massive component of that.
Massive.
Always has been. The ability to find talent, develop that talent, create cultures, environments, opportunities for those students that are coming through your system. And I think that is so critical for us in every sector of business. Mm-hmm. Even as we enter into the realm of automation, and there's discussion and talk around AI and automation about workforce, we believe that one of our strongest opportunities moving forward in the state is to develop talent. How do we find critical thinkers? How do we find problem solvers? How do we develop those into future leaders of organizations? And that is a critical relationship that we have with the university and with the system across the state, whether we start in kindergarten, we start with early childhood development, all the way up to careers and technical education till they enroll in the university and come out with a degree, certificate, education that helps create economic development.
Well, it's very refreshing to hear you talk about the continuum from early childhood all the way up through career development and upskilling and reskilling the future workforce. As you may know, we have put several very large, very important AI programs in place. We're one of the first university systems to have both an undergraduate and a master's program in generative artificial intelligence, both in Omaha and here in Lincoln, and use it as tools to upskill and reskill workforce and hopefully to apply to everything from the ag sector to engineering to journalism to the arts to the whole spectrum of work. As we think about the big challenges ahead, have you gotten to the point now that you've been here a while to think about, what the top 3 things that you want to focus on might be?
Yeah, in the middle of some development of that with our board of directors, as you know, and with our team. It's been interesting to come in from out of state and kind of have perhaps a fresh set of eyes and look at maybe some of the things that we've tried. What are the successes? But as you know, oftentimes you learn more from maybe the things we've tried that didn't work. So I would say there's a couple of things that we need to continue to work on, and our direction right now is forward together. Meaning let's drive the state forward together. Academia, school districts, the business community, our smaller rural communities. How do we uplift them? Again, you indicated your rising tide statement is truly what I believe.
For sure.
So I think there's a couple areas we need to continue to focus on, obviously, and they're nothing new. These are topics that are being talked about in every county, literally in the state, and every state in the nation.
Right.
But they are still relevant. One is, again, workforce. How do we continue to upskill? What does a career look like now versus what might that look like in 5 to 10 years? Your innovation on automation and AI and how we prepare for how those roles might change is critical. Second is childcare. I mentioned that we've got a study coming out in a couple of weeks on childcare and the ever-increasing demand and need for childcare and accessibility in a state like Nebraska is critical, ties into workforce. Third, housing. And that is a challenge as our companies and businesses and even our school districts continue to grow in areas of the state. Affordable housing and enough housing is becoming a challenge, and we need to continue to focus on that. And then lastly, I might say a drive head forward on energy. That is going to be critical and important for both business and for our communities around the state.
And for us,
and
because as we do more work in the AI sector, these are very energy dependent applications.
They are. So infrastructure, I think, is part of that. How do we help create site-ready facilities across the state so that as we prepare to look at businesses both expanding and coming in from out of state, how do we prepare to make sure those communities are ready to receive those?
Well, it sounds like a really exciting agenda. You know, it's great to have you with us today. It's great to have you here in Nebraska, and I look forward to bringing you back as a guest on Shaping the Future in about a year, and we'll compare notes as to where you are. So thanks so much. And to our audience, thank you so much for being part of this broadcast on Shaping the Future. And until next time, I'm Dr. Jeff Gold.